Joining us right now with how investors are reacting to President-elect Trump's victory is Joe Moglia. He's the former TD Ameritrade chairman and CEO, the Coastal Carolina University executive advisor to the president, and the school's former head football coach. And Joe, welcome.
Hi, Becky.
I want to talk to you as a former CEO and a leader and somebody who looks at what's happening, what's been proposed from the Trump administration at this point. Markets are pretty excited about what's happening. What do you think? You want to look at the pros and cons and how you'd be looking at this if you're trying to run a business right now?
Well, I think from a business perspective, most businesses are going to be reasonably excited, right? Just the fact that he's pro-business, just the fact that he's going to be aggressive with deregulation, all those things are positive. We're talking about lowering the corporate tax. All those things are positive. By the same token, while the market's gotten off to a tremendous start and there's a lot of euphoria as far as the market goes, there's still a lot of questions as to how is he actually going to execute all the things that he's got to execute. You know, what's Musk really going to wind up doing with regards to the $2 trillion cuts that they've got to be able to make? Are they going to be able to make those? Can they do it legally? What's going to happen? I would think with regard to the tariffs that Trump keeps talking about, that, you know, that's probably a negotiating tool, I would think, on his part. If he's selective and strategic with that, I think that could actually be very helpful. If he's doing some of the things that he talked about, the 100%, 60%, those things are not, they're kind of crazy. I don't see he's going to do that. But I think right now, from a business perspective and investor perspective, it's certainly far more positive than the negative.
You talk about markets' initial euphoria and the questions that remain. Look, we've seen a huge reaction, and if you want to look through the areas that have particularly done well, maybe an area like Bitcoin. Well,
several years ago, Trump wasn't a big fan of Bitcoin. He wasn't a big fan of cryptocurrency.
He is now.
Now he's Mr. Bitcoin.
Right.
And we're going to have a strategic reserve. He's going to have friendly regulators with regard to that. Wants the United States to be the center of the cryptocurrency world. Those things are incredibly, incredibly positive. Cryptocurrency in general, but very specifically Bitcoin, Ethereum, et cetera. I mean, this is a home run for Bitcoin. And that's very, very different than where he would have been several years ago. But a lot of people have changed their tune from where they were several years ago. Remember Jamie Dimon talking about Bitcoin being pet rocks. All those things have changed. And Bitcoin, I think there isn't any question that's legitimately here to stay. And I think it's going to have significant growth ahead of it.
I was looking at Mark Warner is going to stay. Senator Mark Warner is going to stay at the Intel, you know, the Democrats' top Intel committee chairman. That leaves the way open for Elizabeth Warren to go to the top Democratic spot on the banking sector. Is that something that the finance companies should worry about, or if they don't have control in the Senate, okay, so be it?
Okay, I think just having Warren heavily involved with financial regulation or finance in general or banking in general is not a positive thing for finance or banking.
Clearly.
But because the Democrats are not going to have nearly the authority, the influence that they've had in the past, and because Trump is coming out so powerfully on the different areas in terms of that he really, really feels strongly about, the deregulation, et cetera, I would think the administration and the sweep of Congress will overshadow what Warren's perspective will be, whereas that would not have happened a year ago.
You know, right now we're following so closely what the Trump administration is doing in the days leading up to the inauguration to get ready for things. But if you talk to business leaders, they're doing the same thing. They are talking very specifically about their wish lists, things that they would like to see happen. They are preparing their lobbyists to try and figure out some of these things. What kind of things would you be hearing behind the scenes about what's on the wish list, maybe for financials, maybe for other areas?
No, but I think the biggest single thing is the deregulation. Right, so we've had the SEC has not been particularly friendly toward big business. It's not been particularly friendly toward M&A. It's not been particularly friendly toward cryptocurrency. Well, all those things are going to change now as we go forward. So just that. I think about the possibility of M&A going forward and the impact that's going to have on financial services and the entire brokerage world. We haven't seen a whole lot of M&A activity. We haven't seen a whole lot of investment banking revenues over the span of the last few years. I think that's going to be a home run over the span of the next year or two. And everybody's going to have their individual issues, but you've got a president now that is very much pro-business and very much pro-deregulation. And I can't imagine too many businesses that are not going to be, whether you liked him or not, whether you voted for him or not, that are not going to be excited about the forecast for their actual businesses.
If you have business exposure to China, and there are a lot of U.S. businesses that do. How do you feel today? I'm
concerned about that. China does not like us. China has all sorts of. China's had some real significant issues with regard to the economy over the span of the last several years. They have a horrible, 20% youth unemployment rate. And I think because they're a totalitarian state, I think the Chinese government's already said, we're not going to count that. We're not going to count that.
There's a lot of people who are trying to figure out what am I supposed to do with Apple, for example. What do you do with Starbucks? Huge. I mean, there's a lot of CEOs in America that have massive smiles on their face right now. But I also think it's a more complicated smile for some.
I agree. No, I agree. And I think you got to look at how much of your actual percentage of business do you actually have in China? How much has that already been affected, Andrew, over the span of the last few years? And how much is that going to continue to be affected going forward? If you don't believe it's going to be affected, you're naive. Now, a lot of times with CEOs, their objective as CEOs is to take care of their shareholders and their people. Sometimes they think it's about them looking smart in front of the public. But if you have not been paying attention to this over the span of the last couple of years, regardless of who's in the White House, the issue in China is a serious issue. It's kind of like after COVID, and all the businesses that did so well during COVID, and so many businesses had troubles later on because they anticipated that the demand they had for their product was going to continue for the next 2 or 3 years. That's not reality.